The Dentalpreneur Podcast. Okay, doctor, it's time to put down that handpiece. You're listening to the show dedicated to helping dentists get their lives back. It's time to decrease your stress, increase your profitability, and regain your passion. Now introducing your host, Dr. Mark Costas.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dentalpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mark Costas. What is up, my friends? I hope you're doing great out there today. As you guys probably have heard, I just got back from the Dominican Republic on our most recent mission trip and got off the airplane. I was home for 20 hours and then immediately went to Denver for the DICOMA conference where I had the pleasure and privilege of being a celebrity judge. You can't call me a celebrity, but that's what they called me, at Dentistry's Got Talent to open up DICOMA, and got to attend the DICOMA conference and got to meet up with a lot of my friends that were there. Large conference this year, about 2,000 people. So congratulations to Brian Kaleo, my good friend who hosted that event. They had a lot of DSOs there, and since we are forming a DSO ourselves, it was a great opportunity to rub elbows with a lot of the private equity people and venture capital people and some of the presidents and CEOs and C-suites for some of the DSOs in the marketplace. So I am back here for 4 days, and then I'm heading out to Seattle for another DSI event, coming home for a couple days, and then heading back out for another DSI event in North Carolina, and then straight to Chicago. And then we will be gearing up for our Fiji trip with Smile Outreach International, where we're going to be doing another batch of treatment on people that can't afford and don't have access to dental care in Fiji. And one of the cool things about Fiji, as you guys know, is that it's a fun place to be. So that's going to be our first stab at being in the South Pacific. And then next year, we're going back to Africa, to Tanzania, and we will be in the Dominican Republic, we'll be in Mexico, and we're hoping to do something in Tonga or Samoa for some outreach as well. So we are busy. We have a lot on the calendar, and I am back home, and I'm doing as many podcasts as I can because we have to put them in the can so I have time to travel to all these fun trips and locations. Today, my friends, we are welcoming a married couple, a husband and wife duo. And I want to introduce to you today to Donald and Monica Bailey. They are a husband and wife duo behind Epic Dental. They are passionate about cavity prevention and the power of xylitol to improve oral health. Epic Dental specializes in products containing xylitol, a natural sweetener found in various fruits and vegetables. Xylitol is known for its dental health benefits, such as reducing the risk of cavities and promoting oral hygiene. Donald and Monica, welcome to the podcast. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, nice to meet you both. This is great to have you guys both on screen at the same time. First and foremost, what a unique business model. What a unique business in general. I would love to hear from one of you guys how you guys got into this profession, serving dentists and the dental profession. Seems like a very specific path. I'd love to hear a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take the lead on that because I started it long before I met my wife. It was 2000. It was around the year 2000. A friend, his father developed a nasal spray with xylitol to squirt up your nose and clean it out and reduce upper respiratory infections was the idea. And he didn't really know how to get started. He was just gung-ho and wanted to chase things, and I helped him develop a business plan. And it was maybe 2002, I came back to work with him and to promote xylitol generally. How can we make xylitol a bigger thing? How can we grow a business? And I quickly realized that, oh man, oral care is where xylitol can really grow. That's where all the research is super solid. Mm-hmm. And so I dove in and I said, how do we optimize xylitol for people here? Xylitol gum was available in Scandinavia. It was available in Japan and South Korea, but not much was happening in the US. And I said, why not? And what do we need to do differently? So I built a system that was based around getting a sufficient amount of xylitol to have a real impact on karyogenic bacteria. So specifically strep mutans. And once I realized that if you got about a 6-gram dosage a day, I just scattered plotted results from a lot of different studies. Some showed xylitol was effective, some didn't. And I was like, what's the difference? Well, it was a dose response relationship. It was pretty obvious when you put all the results there and you said, oh, when we want to deliver results, we just need to get them at that 6-gram threshold. So I built a system around getting xylitol. Gum and mints is kind of your primary way to get xylitol, supplemented with a xylitol toothpaste and a mouthwash.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell me about this. Are you guys, do you go all the way back to the refinement and extraction of xylitol from certain substances, or do you get it when it's already produced and then prepackage it into your products?
Yeah, that's right. We purchase xylitol in bulk after it's already been refined and come out of, in our case, we get it from non-GMO corn. Mm-hmm. So they'll pull it out of the corn and the leftover materials really after they've harvested the corn off. They can pull it out of the cob and they take that fibrous plant material, process it into xylitol. We get that xylitol and then we manufacture that into the variety of different products that we produce.
Is it a powder? Is it a liquid? Is it a gel? What does it look like when you guys get it?
It looks like crystalline sugar.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah. And I mean, you can put it in your coffee and your cereal. I mean, it tastes a lot like sugar. It's very similar. There's no weird aftertaste like a lot of artificial sweeteners have. Like it tastes very much like sugar.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, all right, tell us about the product development process, right? So you come up with this idea. You're like, all right, I don't want to do nasal spray. We're going to go more towards strep mutans and develop some dental products. What does that look like? I mean, a lot of product development, you hear about like founders of companies mixing stuff up in their kitchen and doing stuff like that. So what did it look like for you guys?
I didn't have any of the equipment required to make gum. We did mix up some stuff in the kitchen, like tried to make hard candy. Xylitol doesn't reach hard crack, for example, so you can't make the same kinds of candies you did. But I just literally back then it was on Google and you didn't have Alibaba and the things that you have now to find stuff. But I was like contract gum manufacturer, contract mint manufacturer, and I start tracking down people that have this. And I get in touch and I was like, hey, I want to make a product that looks like this. Can you help me? And in many cases, they were just eager and ready to help. In other cases, they're like, oh, we need a bunch of money up front so you can own this and have all the rights to it. And that was great. I didn't mind paying for it because it was something I knew I was passionate about and really felt like there was a market for.
So product development, and then you do you white label to other to other manufacturers? And
we do.
Okay, so you guys,
that is international.
Okay. So once you guys have your product, I'm sorry, I'm dorking out here. This is just a really fascinating process to me. So you guys develop a product and you advertise for direct to consumer. Do you go into wholesaling? Do you like advertise to other companies that could potentially purchase your products to white label? How does that all work?
Yes, all of that. So when we started with marketing, I was like, oh, health food stores are going to be great for us. I knocked on the door and they're like, hey, we got some xylitol gum in here. We don't really want anything else. There was nothing that stood out there. And I said, well, the people who have the problem are the people with cavities. Let's start partnering with dentists. And we start talking to dentists, and I'm doing lunch and learns every single day. And in each lunch and learn, I'm able to move a bunch of product. They stock it on the shelf. And I was like, yeah, $700 sale. I'll be back, in a couple of weeks, and that'll be off the shelf. And I went back a month later to detail the office, and nothing had moved. Right? It was just dust on the shelf because dentists don't sell product. Most dentists, right? They're surgeons. They know how to do a great job taking care of repairing, restoring teeth. Selling just wasn't their mantra. So I quickly realized like, oh, this will be a lot of one-time sales. This is not the model you want to replicate. We need to get in touch with the consumer. And I said, but I want to do that at scale. So we got with the dental director of Aetna, and we said it was Aetna, Cigna, a couple of the Delta plans. And we said, we want to promote xylitol as a preventive product. We want to leverage your network to get there. So we made a little mail along flyer to go in the explanation of benefits that they would mail out to everybody.
Oh, cool.
And all of a sudden I had a call center with 8 people that was answering the phone nonstop, taking stuff. And what we had done was a really aggressive promotion, like free plus shipping kind of offer. And it quickly realized a lot of these people are going to cancel before they start paying for product. And so I'm putting a lot of risk out there. And in fact, we were break even after our very first month doing it. And my business partner's like, dude, we can't do this. Like, I can't believe you want to raise money to support this plan at that level. And I was like, well, I don't know what else to do. This is the way to scale the business. And he's like, well, I'm out. I'm not going to fund that. So I had to come up with money to buy him out, pay for product that I already had ordered on the water, put deposits down. So I did like this investing round, and it was a down round for us because I'd raised some money to start out with initially. And it was a really hard experience to be like, oh, I have this great product. It can go to a customer. It can make a difference. But finding those customers at scale in a way that worked seemed really challenging. We've since really perfected that and understand it a lot better. But it was really hard for us at that moment. So I started knocking on doors. Well, why don't we sell it white label to folks, right? So who has good distribution in the dental industry? And I'm mailing off letters back in the day. I didn't have emails. I'm picking up the phone. I'm calling people.
That's cool.
And so before I knew it, we had just a variety of different channels where we were distributing product. So we were in some health food stores. We were selling it to dentists. We had our website. We were going direct to consumer. And then we had our white label group. And then more recently, maybe it was 8 to 10 years ago, we added in Amazon and some of these other channels where it was easier for people to get access to it because Amazon, when you start in 2003, they weren't really anything. They were a book retailer. It wasn't a third-party marketplace where you could easily get products, and they didn't have Amazon Prime, where most people had subscribed to that and could just get products to their house. So a lot of things have changed over that, but 21 years ago when we started, it was a different world marketing.
That's cool. Okay, so would you mind just kind of from top down, like what product did you start with and successfully start distributing, and then like what is the span of products that you now currently have?
Yeah, so we started with the same basic concepts of products. We had gum, mints, toothpaste, and mouthwash. Okay. I wanted to go to market with all of them. It took me about $500,000 in inventory investment to get those products initially out the door. So it was a big go. If I'd known more about a lean startup, I probably would have just started with the gum or the mint and said, hey, I think we can build a system there. But I was aggressive when we started with those. We started with peppermint and spearmint in those flavors. And now we have a
what's the difference between peppermint and spearmint? I'm always like, what is the difference between this blue and green?
They're different plants.
Yeah, they are. They're just different plant leaves. So peppermint has some natural spice to it that you don't get in the spearmint. Spearmint's a more refreshing flavor. Peppermint has more of a bite to it. Then you get wintergreen, which is a different kind of mint.
Sweeter.
It's a sweeter, similar to spearmint, but it's a little bit even sweeter than that. There's so many different varieties of mint, but those are the 3 that we've integrated into our gums.
Sorry, guys, my ADD is showing. I'm highly caffeinated this morning. This is like my 5th call of the day. So this is kind of my style. The listeners kind of laugh when I go rapid fire like this. But you guys are doing great. Okay, so I got off on the mint like rabbit hole, but when it goes back to your product line, so when you're looking at like a rinse and a toothpaste, like therapeutic type things that are existing on the consumer shelf right now. You go down the dental aisle, it's like, holy cow, like what am I looking at? And of course, now I want to be careful here because some dentists are holistic dentists and they really kind of, they beat the drum of fluoride is unhealthy and it causes cancer and you're dead in 3 days if you use fluoride toothpaste. And then the other side is like, all right, let's be reasonable about this. There's probably pros and cons of fluoride, mostly pros as far as most traditional dentists would say. But when you go to like a healthcare store, they're like, fluoride is evil, only use alternatives to fluoride. Where do you guys kind of lay in the spectrum of like fluoride is going to kill you and all future generations of your family versus like it's a reasonable to have it in your water supply versus xylitol and any other kind of substitute is better for you?
I mean, I think really where we land is we want personal choice to kind of come first. We want people to have good information and decide what fits their needs best. And I think really kind of where we land personally with fluoride is it has some excellent applications. There's times where it makes a ton of sense. And there's times where it's like, hey, maybe there's another option that could work better. So we're kind of oddly in the middle of that where we don't feel strongly either way. I don't know what else you would add to that.
I probably have some strong feelings, actually. Yeah. So when I launched the business, the original tag was fluoride alternative. Okay. So the idea for my original concept was give this to all the people that don't want fluoride. that there's a different option. But hitting those dentists as my sales channel pretty quickly and getting pushback from them, we want fluoride. I was like, I'm not married to this. Like, if this is what works for your patients, let's develop one with fluoride. So we had a fluoride-free and a fluoride version of the toothpaste.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of fluoridation in the water, right? Like, I think systemic application of fluoride is really silly. And that's where you start to see more challenges that I think the anti-fluoride crowd talk about. But if you're talking like SDF on a kid's tooth who's suffering from a cavity in their primary dentition, I'm a big fan, right? Like, go to town. I think that application is very specific, useful, and doesn't have loads of excess risk.
Got it. Okay. So if you're going to put fluoride and xylitol side by side, as far as the benefits, is there a benefit one way or the other to each of those? So what I'm trying to say, not very well, is that what are the drawbacks to xylitol versus the pros to xylitol? What are the drawbacks versus the pros of fluoride if you're looking at it side by side comparison?
Yeah, so I think of fluoride primarily as a defensive tool. Fluoride makes the teeth more acid resistant, right? So it interferes with how the calcium and the phosphate would naturally bond, so that instead of forming hydroxyapatite, they form fluoroapatite.
Mm-hmm.
Fluoroapatite is more acid resistant than hydroxyapatite. And that's why we think of it as strengthening the tooth. Xylitol, on the other hand, is offensive. It goes after the Streptococcus mutans. It interferes with their metabolic process in a way that when it's used regularly, the strep mutans die off and you get a healthier oral flora. With that healthier oral flora, you start to see fewer acid challenges, less demineralization. And so they can be used in conjunction with each other. They can be very powerful together. Okay. The cons to xylitol: too much xylitol can lead to GI distress. There was a recent study that came out and said, oh, hey, xylitol can lead to increased risk for cardiovascular events. But if you look at the research, that's actually pretty similar to what sugar does, right? So I don't really look at it as significantly more dangerous. Fluoride can obviously interfere with thyroid function. So if you're using it systemically, I start to have a lot more concerns. It can obviously lead to fluorosis and other challenges. So for a dentist who wants to help a patient that's struggling with cavities, they work really nicely together if you're a believer in fluoride. And if you're not a believer in fluoride, go deep on the xylitol and you'll see that it really becomes a natural solution for folks who struggle with cavities.
And I think something that is really nice is that the xylitol is so easy to integrate into your lifestyle that patient compliance is a lot easier than with some of the other dental products out there. Mm-hmm. It's inexpensive compared to other kinds of dental products, and you can use it every single day. So that's part of why when Donald developed this system, he wanted to put it into products that people are already using, but to integrate xylitol into that. So you're already using toothpaste. Most people already chew gum or use mints. Things like that. Most people are using a mouthwash. And so if you put a high dose of xylitol within those, then you're getting that exposure without having to change your habits. And I think every dentist knows trying to ask a patient to change their habits is so, so difficult.
Got it. Okay. So the name of this podcast is the Dentalpreneur Podcast. We talked about the dental. We talked a little bit about the entrepreneurial journey, but I want to circle back to the entrepreneur in Donald and Monica. So you had a significant cash outlay. You basically doubled down on your idea, especially after your partner said, I'm out. And you spent a lot of your own personal money to get this company off the ground. So what was it basically a burn the boats kind of thing where you're like, well, I'm in this deep, like I'm going to double and triple down and I really believe in this. So I'm going to do everything I can to get this business off the ground. Because a lot of people don't take that extra step. Some people like literally collapse 6 inches from the finish line. You're able to kind of sprint through the finish line and now you have a successful company. So tell me about that whole process.
Yeah. I mean, I was young and dumb, right? So when I started this in 2001, I would have been 25, 26. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't have much to risk. I didn't have a family. Yeah. I hadn't accumulated a bunch of debt. In fact, I'd accumulated a couple $100,000 from doing consulting that I'd set aside while I was doing strategy consulting. And I said, this is a big deal to me. I want to chase this. I want to make this happen. So we probably hit a place where we were cash flow positive about the 18-month mark, right? So that $500,000, that was kind of the deepest we dipped down into just spending the money and not seeing anything come back.
Okay.
And once we hit that, I was like, great, off to the races. And it was not off to the races at all. I have the same ADD you do, right? Like I struggle to get things to the finish line all the time. Yeah. And it was after years and years of frustration of, I have so many great ideas, why don't they come to fruition, that I read a book called Traction. Mm-hmm. And that book talked about the idea that there's a type of entrepreneur known as a visionary. Mm-hmm. And you see things that could be, but maybe you're not always great at bringing them to bear fruit. And so that's where I got my wife involved. I was like, hey, there's this thing called an integrator. You should check out this book. This is you to a T. Mm-hmm. I need help.
Well, and then I read that book and I was like, yes, these are all the things I've been telling you to do from the sidelines for several years. And he couldn't quite hear it. But after reading that book, he realized, hey, the pain I feel of trying to run a business alone and be everything and do everything that needs to happen, that can go away if I have the right kind of partnership with someone that can bring that organization and structure, someone that can implement process and make life easier. And so I'm a big fan of running a company as a duo. If you have, as the founder of the company, someone that is that visionary personality that has incredible ideas but struggles with implementation.
We have a lot of EOS fans inside our organization and that listen to this podcast as well. A lot of Gino Wickman fans. Just out of curiosity, Donald, was your previous partner also a visionary or was he an integrator?
Oh, that's tough to say. He wasn't a visionary for sure. I'm not certain that he was an integrator.
He was a friend.
Yeah, he was a friend who'd made a lot of money and was like, no, we can do this. I love your idea. Natural salesman. He'd done private wealth management before that, really on the sales side. Yeah. And so he didn't have a lot of experience, but he was hungry and would go knock on dental offices' doors and do lunch and learns and make stuff happen.
That's great. Yeah, we've seen as far as partnerships go. I mean, you've been in the consulting world and you've been a strategic consultant. I'm sure you've seen this a lot. People come together as business partners because they have a lot in common and they have friendships and many times they have the similar personalities, right? So if you have two visionaries and no integrator, you have double the trouble, right? You have two people with,
so true.
You could fill whiteboards for 24 hours straight and then nobody will ever get shit done because you're just, you're an idea mill and you don't have an integrator. So if you have a Monica, then she's the perfect pair. So I love that. Tell me about kind of the scale of your operation now. Do you guys have a full-on sales team? Where's manufacturing take place? What's all that look like?
So we still use like manufacturing partners that make the formula that Donald has created. And so all of that has been kind of specified by him. And then they manufacture for us. And then we receive in most of the goods in bulk. And then we do all of our packaging in our clean room that we have on site. So we've got a clean room, warehouse, office, all in one building that we manage here out of Salt Lake City. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what that looks, but we actually don't have any sales force whatsoever,
wow,
which I think is really, really unusual. And so part of what we realized is, hey, if we're trying to go out into distributors and retailers and play the game there, it's such a nightmare because you have to have all these brokers that you pay. There's no transparency. There's no accountability. You don't know if they're doing anything for your brand, but they're highly expensive.
Yes.
So that was something that I cut early on because I said, this is just waste that we could put into marketing elsewhere. We've tried using salespeople before, but I feel like it's an uphill battle with retail. And then with dentist offices, it's tricky to try and have anything happen after you leave that meeting, kind of like what Donald describes, because they're so busy seeing patients and there's so much demand on their time that asking them to sell for you is really difficult. So kind of what we found was, hey, if we can reach to the end consumer, help them see that this is an option. And then we have dentists and dental hygienists that are powerful educators because they understand the science behind the products. They can be educating from their standpoint, which they're passionate about. They want to do it. It fits in naturally with their daily routine, but they don't have to sell. They don't have to market. They just do what comes natural, which is educate. And then we come in with the marketing, and that's really what we've done. And then social media is kind of the newest thing that we've implemented in the last 18 months or so, is having daily videos on TikTok and Instagram, because you can find that end consumer that's had cavities their entire life. They're beating their head against the wall. They don't know how they're going to solve it. And they basically given up on even going to the dentist, and they hear, oh, there's something out there that I've never heard of that can get me out of the cycle. And then they turn and they can go ask their dentist about it. And the dentist validates, yep, this is a real thing. And then bam, we've got a new customer. So
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Monica. If you take your finger and lick it and put it in a pile of xylitol and lick it, does it taste like sugar? Is it a sweetener?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
why do you think that it never kind of caught traction as a sweetener like stevia or monk fruit or something like that?
It's significantly more expensive.
Okay.
That's one of the things.
So refining it is more expensive probably to extract
yes.
it. Okay. Uh-huh.
The other thing is the way that the bacteria in your gut process it, it's a sugar alcohol. And so it's going to be different than stevia or monk fruit. And as a result, you can more commonly get GI distress if you're consuming large amounts of it as a sugar substitute.
Got it. Okay. That makes perfect sense because they talk about that, like sugar substitutes and like protein bars and stuff that are actually sugar alcohols lead to a lot of gastric distress.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So this is perfect for something that you swish and spit or something that you rub on your teeth and spit out, just like kind of your products.
Or if you chew the gum or use the mints, like those are small dose amounts that get you where you need to be. Anything over 6 grams a day really is superfluous. You don't need to get up into large amounts like other sweeteners to really get it. So that's why it doesn't get used as a replacement sweetener.
Paint us a picture of what headquarters looks like. So your clean room where you guys are packaging and redistributing or reshipping, is it pallets and pallets of product all over the place? Like what are we looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a large warehouse. We'll probably have to move again at some point, not too long, but we've got, rows and rows in the warehouse where one side is the components we use to kind of build stuff. We'll send those off to our manufacturing partners. It comes back in large drums of the product. And then we take that into the clean room. One of the things I'm really, really big on is having very strict quality standards. I want to make sure that anything that we're packaging is as clean as it can possibly be. So if you look at kind of what's actually required, we go like 3 levels above that because I want to know without a doubt it's the cleanest it can possibly be. So we have an awesome team in the warehouse, awesome team in the clean room. And then we have our office kind of on the front end of the building and we fulfill and ship out of there too. So.
Yeah, we've got 3 different production teams going at any given time to help us get product out to folks. And with the growth we've seen with social media, we're going to have to add some more and automate some more soon.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Okay, so this is just out of curiosity. So do you remember, of course you remember, but Tom's of Maine? That,
of course, yeah.
Yeah, so they had a huge exit. I think they sold to Colgate or like one of the big
Palmolive. I think it was like 110 million or something.
Yeah, that was good by Tom. Good job, buddy. But do you guys have any large kind of white, you don't have to use any names in particular, but do you have any large white labelers that could go that route and have a large exit, do you think?
I think there's definitely potential there for sure.
Say like a
I'm not going to respond very clearly on the white labelers. We have some very large companies that white label the product both domestically and internationally and move a lot of product for us. I don't see them having an exit based exclusively on that product. All of the white labelers tend to have existing distribution that they're just adding the product into.
That's what I was kind of alluding to. Like, is there a single product where they've doubled down on like a single product that has really caught fire? Yeah.
No, I mean, all the products perform well, but they perform well in a suite of preventive products for all of our white labelers.
Got it. And do you have decent distribution inside dental offices now? Like, do you have like the small traveler kits and those sorts of things, or not so much?
We don't have any travel sizes, but we do have a lot of dental offices that love the product. It's not something that we're putting a ton of energy into pushing. But I mean, we've just collected a nice number over the years. And so a lot of them will love the individual wrapped samples because then they can give those out and sample those to their patients. There's a lot of pediatric offices that really love their product because trying to get a kid to brush perfectly is really challenging. And so if you can give them some xylitol mints that they can follow with, or we've got these Spiffy's wipes. This is a brand we acquired about 2 years ago that was developed by a pediatrician in Arizona. Because he saw so many cavities in his patients that he saw that he developed this wipe that has a xylitol solution. And when he wanted to exit that business, reached out to us and said, hey, I think you guys would be a great steward of this brand that he just loved so much. So I think we've collected a lot of dental offices. They're very passionate about the products.
Yeah, but I think distribution in terms of moving product that way, it's pretty limited. What we really focus on with our dental partners is to use them as educators.
Got it. So, what do you think the future of xylitol looks like? Like if I did walk into a natural grocery store and, it used to just be Tom's and they were first to market and they had a great exit. Is it a cluttered marketplace now for fluoride alternatives?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
There's been a lot of development since I launched 21 years ago.
Okay.
It used to be really pretty wide open. You can find a lot of products that have xylitol in it. Not many of them put enough xylitol in it to be efficacious. And I think that's really important because there's not a lot of disclosure about what's going on inside a product. We're pretty aggressive about disclosing exactly how much xylitol is in each of our formulas so people know what they're getting. But you can sprinkle a little bit in there and claim the benefits of xylitol without having to deliver a dose that matters, because it's not something that the FDA regulates outside of. The claim you can make is may reduce the risk of cavities, right? And that's as a sugar substitute, it may reduce the risk of cavities. They really haven't updated what's there in many years. And that's okay with me because I don't want it to be classified as a drug and have to go through more complicated regulatory hurdles than we already do. Okay. It's clear from the research that xylitol, when you get enough of it, gets rid of the strep mutans and it promotes saliva flow. And those are two great things if you want to prevent cavities. Got
it. Is there anything that I should have asked you about xylitol or your company before we end our discussion? Is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't?
I mean, I think one thing that I love people in the dental industry to know is that if they want to experience the products for themselves so they know what they're recommending to patients, we have a dental provider kit that they can sign up for. So they can reach out to us and email our company and we can get them set up with product that they can be using at home with their families. And so they can actually see the benefits. They can feel how slippery smooth their teeth feel. It feels like you get a dental cleaning every week. Your teeth just feel so smooth. And so we want people to experience that for themselves. And so if anyone's interested, they can reach out.
Yeah, I'd say those are two questions that I think that most people ask me. Does it taste dental? Right? Like, because you know what that's like to go in and you're like, I can't tell the difference between the product they gave me and the rubber gloves that the dentist is wearing. Like it all tastes disgusting. I don't want it in my mouth. Yeah. No, it doesn't taste dental at all. It tastes delicious, right? And I think the other question is, how do I know it's working? Like, is this just a vitamin for my smile and I hope that things improve? No, you can see within a couple of weeks the difference it makes. Not because you're going to take new x-rays and be like, oh, remineralization of an incipient lesion occurred and yay, I'm so excited. What's going to happen is you're going to scrape your teeth and you're going to go, they're slippery smooth. Like I just went to the dentist and got cleaned. I'm not getting any plaque buildup at all. And when you're using the products regularly, you notice that. So I think those are probably the two questions I most frequently am asked that I'd love to share that answer with your podcast too. Awesome.
So what's the best way for people to reach out if they have a product idea or they just want to get in touch with you guys?
So they can email info@epicdental.com. And my assistant filters through all of that. And so anything that you're looking to get in touch with us about, like she'll bring that right to us.
Yeah. And if you want to sign up for the dental professional kit at epicdental.com. And then we are on social media at epic.dental on Instagram and TikTok. And we monitor those and respond to folks there. So those are easy ways to reach out too.
Awesome. Well, it was super fun talking with you guys today. I love talking about your entrepreneurial journey and how you intersected with dental in the first place. You guys are a great duo. Hopefully you get a ton of traction from this podcast episode. And I wish you guys the very best of luck in scaling the business even further.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mark.
Yeah, it's great to have you guys on. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald and Monica Bailey.